fill this up with a couple inches of water, and then check the floor to see if we're getting any leaks on the bottom. Okay, so we're gonna start with this rivet here. For today's video, we're back out here working on the JON boat. The last step I want to do before I start working on the bottom of the boat is to clear out the foam in both of these benches. As I've been cleaning out the boat, I am getting particles of foam flowing out from the seats. It tends to pull up in the channels because it's all clogged under there. And worse, the foam is waterlogged. So my plan today is going to be cutting into the bench seats and gutting the foam. This is my general idea for how I want to do this access port. This should give me more than enough room to pull out as much foam as I need to, or all of it, and see what it looks like under these seats. I'm using one of these Diablo bimetal blades. These have worked really well in the past. I'll throw a link in the description if you guys are looking to cut aluminum. It's worked for everything up to an 1/8 inch at this point, so I think it'll be just fine for these bench tops. Adding a little bit of cutting lubricant helps a lot when dealing with metal. If I can get roughly that shape, that'll give me more than enough room to pull the foam out and then be completely covered by the plate being installed back on top. I always keep any big cuts of aluminum like this. One thing I wanted to do was make a backing plate for the transom for a little extra added support. There was already one for the front, so maybe I'll use this to turn it into a little bit of transom support on the back. So after pulling out a plug to check this out, it looks like there's a different type of foam on the bottom. It looks kind of like pour foam down there. This is absolutely soaking wet. That needs to come out for sure. Here's the wet foam. It's just dripping with water. It's like a giant sponge. All wet foam down there. That's crazy. About that deep of waterlogged foam all on the bottom of the benches. After that first piece, they just start coming out. Yeah. If I needed any more reason to want to do this, I just pulled these two pieces out, and this foam's waterlogged also. That 80 pounds just ballooned out to probably over 100 or so. And this right here is what I was expecting to find, nests. Pulled out some of the bedding right there. There's a big old hole right here, and that's where all the little particles of foam are coming from. This is the huge hole that it had dug out, went all the way through the foam. I would say that's probably where the bulk of the deterioration's coming from, and this whole thing's soaking wet, so. Getting there, almost done with the back bench. All right, so with the foam removed from the back bench, I'm really happy I made that decision. There is just a ton of shredded foam back there from whatever animal is building a nest. Not to mention, all of the yellow foam is completely waterlogged and saturated. Even now, after being out of the boat for a couple days, you can just feel it is super, super heavy. This is dry foam. Well, actually, no, this is wet foam also. Let's find some dry foam here. This is how light dry foam should be. And then this is waterlogged foam, along with this. So you can clearly see the amount of extra weight that this foam is holding on to. So at this point, I've got the back bench basically done. I'm gonna go ahead and tear into the front bench, find out some way to get rid of all this foam, and then we can work on flipping the boat over and getting the bottom coating applied. So we got our first bit of super waterlogged foam out of here. You can just see this is like a sponge. Look at that. Yeah, not gonna work. foam has been cleared out of both benches. This was a tremendous amount of work. I would not recommend doing this unless you absolutely have to. In this bench here, I found even more waterlogged foam. This felt even more waterlogged than the front bench somehow. And I also found another mouse nest in here. So this foam was already taking away from flotation rather than providing it, because waterlogged foam is not going to provide any flotation. It's just going to add extra weight to the boat. The foam was all deteriorated because of the mouse nests, which were just clogging up the drain channels. So in the event that water did get into the boat, it's not going to flow to the back of the transom as easily to get to the bilge pump. All right, so at this point, let's go ahead and get this cleaned up and we'll see how it looks. And this here is what I was referring to. That is a full-on nest. That is all nesting material, all piled up in there. That is why I always check the foam inside the bench seats. I was lucky that this was already waterlogged, so it gave me a reason to dig into it, but I knew something was up when all of the particles of foam just kept pouring out of all the corners every time I blew air in there. So just to recap, we identified that there was waterlogged foam in the boat. I had suspicion that there was some nesting in the boat. We cut it open with some access panels that are gonna get covered up by the plates that hold on to the seat bases. And we were able to pull all the foam out and take a look at what we were working at. In general, I'm really happy I did this. Just some final thoughts and some tips for you guys. If you're cutting into the bench seats and you're gonna be working in those holes, make sure that you file the edges because they're very sharp when you cut them. I got tons of little nicks and cuts all over me, and that was after filing them. So if I didn't file them, they would have been like razor blades and that would have been terrible. So be very careful if you're working around cut metal. Also, this makes an absolute mess, so be prepared for that. If you're gonna be using a shop vac to vacuum up foam, make sure you pick out all the big pieces first because foam clogs up the tubes for the shop vac super easy. And if you're dealing with digging that out, it's gonna take 3 times as long. So pick out as many of the big pieces as you can and only use your shop vac for like the little bits that come apart when you're taking out the foam. The boat went from barely being able to be lifted, where now I can lift it up with one arm. It's kind of hard to see with holding the camera. But I had to lift this up a couple times to just access different things. But now it is just so incredibly easy without all that wet foam in it. So that foam was holding onto a ton of water. I'm really glad I got it out. It really lightened up the boat. Now I can add dry foam back, which basically weighs nothing. Then the boat will still be water ready. So the next thing I'm gonna be working on is pulling the boat off the trailer. I need to work on the trailer some. There's something going on where the whole trailer is like twisting in the center. I think it's just loose. I found some loose bolts under there when I was just poking around. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this boat off, tighten up everything I can find, recarpet the back 2 bunks. Thankfully, the trailer lights still work, so I'm not gonna put any money into that. And once the trailer's solid, the boat's gonna come off, get flipped over, and I'm gonna start working on the bottom coating. All right, well, if you guys found this helpful, don't forget to let me know by hitting that like button. If you wanna see more videos like this and follow along with the John Boat build, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.